This is the Rush Discuss, where the discuss is Rush. Welcome to episode 6 of the least popular bracket in the Rush Discuss. We're talking about Anagram from Presto and Neurotica from Roll the Bones. So these albums are back to back from each other, so the sound of them are pretty similar, but very distinct, if that makes any sense.
But both very unpopular to most people.
That is true. These albums both consistently get relegated to the bottom of people's lists.
Which makes me sad, but I get it. Presto will always remind me of my brother, who is couple years younger than me. As a teenager, he wore probably at least a couple of times a week. Maybe he'll disagree. He wore a Rush Presto shirt that had the album cover on it. And so it's just like seared into my brain. So this always just reminds me of my brother.
Can't remember, but I might have made those shirts.
I'm pretty sure you did. I think he told me once that you made them.
But anyway, like we've said before about Presto, this was a transitional album going from the very synth-heavy Hold Your Fire and trying to transition back to what they had done before, where it was focused on guitar, bass, and drums, and that was it. And so on this album, they did pare back some in the synths, but they still did use synths quite a bit.
And I always feel like I don't really know what this even means, but whenever I listen to Presto and they're going back to those rock roots, all I can ever think, though, is, man, it just sounds so 90s.
Which is so funny because it was technically the last album of the 80s.
I know, which is why I don't understand why my brain does that, but I'm just like, it's so 90s, but it wasn't really.
I mean, I feel like they were anticipating some of the directions that the music was going to go.
Yeah.
And it is funny because they were kind of incorporating some of that jazziness that was popular at that time. And then in the same sort of vein, Roll the Bones was still them trying to get back to their roots. And like I said before, I don't think they were really as successful with getting back to their roots until they got to the next album, which was Counterparts.
Yeah. Still enjoyable all the same, but I agree. It's definitely not the same vibe as Permanent Waves or Moving Pictures, but I enjoy it for what it is on its own.
Yeah, these two albums were very slow burns for me, but now they're some of my favorite, but it is very far removed from most other Rush.
Yeah, most passive listeners of Rush would never choose to listen to these albums, probably. But with that said, we should jump into Anagram. But Adam, did you want to explain why it specifically is Anagram for Mongo?
So this gets to the heart of this song, I think, in that it's just a goofy song. It's an exercise in humor and wit. But that parenthetical for Mongo is the same concept as the song of bringing humor in, because it's referencing Blazing Saddles. Because there's a scene where a guy's coming in and just chanting through a saloon, Candygram for Mongo. And so they were just referencing that scene.
So it's just goofiness.
Yeah.
Basically. Which like they've said, this whole song is just goofy.
So without further ado, let's dive into Anagram for Mongo.
There's a snake coming out of the darkness, parade from paradise, and the need for reading, chase the dreams of merchandise. There is tick-tock in a
So if you couldn't catch on exactly what was going on there from the title and then from hearing these lyrics. This whole song is just made up of not strict anagrams, but of using the idea of anagrams where you're making a new set of words or new word out of another word. And in this song, he is playing with that idea. So like the very first one, there's a snake coming out of the darkness, because if you rearrange some of the letters in darkness, you get snake. And so snake is coming out of darkness in the sense that you're rearranging those letters. And this whole song is just, if you are a literary nerd or someone who just loves wordplay like myself, you're going to love this song, because the lyrics are all extremely witty and just, there is no point to them other than wordplay.
And yet the music is written in an entertaining way that keeps you listening, and you're just kind of like, what's going on? But I'm enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah, the music is extremely catchy, and especially just the chorus that's put together, it's all very pleasing, which I think is an underappreciated aspect of songwriting. Sometimes songs are...
Gosh, sorry.
What?
I'm just like looking at, I'm so sorry. I'm reading the lyrics. Like I knew about the wordplay, but I forgot that it was creating words from other words. So I'm like noticing all of them now, and it's hilarious. Like the night is turning thin, the saint is turning to sin. Like they're getting the letters. Okay. I'm not sounding intelligent, but I'm getting it now.
Yeah, one of my favorites, before going back to talking about the chorus, but one of my favorites is Image, just an eyeless game. Because in the lyrics, it's like eye meaning your eye that you see with, but it double meaning, because if you take the eye out of image, then eyeless. You've got game. If you rearrange it, obviously.
Dang.
But then the chorus is just extremely catchy, and it gives Geddy a little chance to have a high note towards the end. And the drumming is just so excellent in this track as well. So I love this song, but I think a lot of people who don't like it, it's because it's all just wordplay. There is nothing of substance lyrically, other than the fact that Neil just has a wonderful wit about him. Also, I forgot about this part, but this is also one of my favorite parts. Miracles will have their claimers, more will bow to Rome. He and she are in the house, but there's only me at home. If you can't picture it just from me saying it, look up the lyrics, and
it's brilliant.
Just such a treat lyrically.
As if we couldn't think that Neil could get more brilliant. He outdoes himself with Anagram. This, however hilarious this song is, and how much I'm enjoying the wordplay, this song was a slow burn for me at first, because it was and even though it was explained to me before, Adam explained the song to me before we listened to it, I just didn't, it's not that I didn't get it, I just didn't really like it. I didn't really like the way it sounded, and I was just kind of like, it's just kind of a weird whatever song. But then the more I listened to it, obviously, like, as we hear like all the time, the more I listened to it, the more I got it, and the more I started actually enjoying the silliness and the melody, which I didn't love the melody at first. Like the chorus especially, I was like kind of bored with it and just like, but I do enjoy this song quite a bit now, especially now that I can even more appreciate the wordplay.
Yeah, I think musically it is a slow burn because there is almost more of an orchestral approach taken to it. Like in the start of it, you have the synth horn almost that has just kind of this little bit that goes, and there's just a lot of layers. And it seems like a lot of effort for something that's just wordplay, which to me makes it even funnier.
That's true. It is kind of grand sounding for something so silly.
And I think that's why it's something that people don't like sometimes. Because I've seen very polarized opinions about this. Some people who love this song because they get it, and then other people who get it but just hate it because they think it's just silly or beneath Neil or beneath the group.
You've seen people say that? It's beneath Neil.
Yeah.
There's a lot of funny stuff out there. Oh, right. So Anagram, good stuff. Now moving on to Neurotica, which is kind of a funny pairing again, that it's also kind of like this nonsense. I'm not sure if I would call it as silly as Anagram, but it is kind of different.
It's got a similar ambiguity about it.
Yeah,
where
that's right.
There is sort of a message, but at the same time, it is almost just more about a feeling and communicating that feeling.
Well, you just don't get it what it is. Well, you're not really sure, Adam. It's like the song is describing itself right off the bat.
Yeah. So as you're about to hear, also, this is, I think for me, one of Geddy's weaker vocals, but I'll leave that to you to decide in this little smidgen that we'll hear from the beginning of Neurotica.
You just don't get it, what it is, well, you're not really sure. You move like you're walking on thin ice, talking like you're still insecure. Time is a spiral, space is a curve. I know you get dizzy, but try not to lose your nerve.
I actually love this song. It reminds me a lot of when I used to go running all the time. I would listen to this probably every time I went running. For whatever reason, I just thought it was super entertaining to run to. Just kind of the nonsense, especially like what's the word? Especially the chorus that you're just like, what is happening? But I'm enjoying it, and it's kind of weird, and I like running to this. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what this song always reminds me of, and I've always really enjoyed this song.
This was a song that I didn't care for at first. But like I've said time and time again, Roll the Bones, most of the songs I didn't care for at first.
Which is crazy to me because I love Roll the Bones like from the get-go. Well, I talked about that before, so that's something where we are different. That I could listen to, even from the beginning, I could listen to this song, entire album on repeat over and over, which is why I really liked this song all along, but always kind of like, what is going on though?
Yeah, and that riff that the bass starts off with, that then the guitar takes.
It is pretty sweet though. If you really listen with like, you won't hear it probably if you're listening on kind of like computer speakers. You probably won't hear it in the car, but if you have good headphones on and you hear that that bass that's super deep and like, I don't know what word epic to you. I guess epic. Bass bit sounds super cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a very processed bass sound, which does lend a lot of gravitas to the start. But for whatever reason, that riff, it took a long time for me to actually like it. I just thought the do 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 do.
I like it.
It just rubbed me the wrong way.
Maybe that's why it was fun to run to, because it was just kind of repetitive and driving.
Yeah, and the chorus is, yet again, a little bit of wordplay, a little bit of nonsense, but it is kind of poking fun at the people who are just so neurotic that they can't just live life.
Yeah, I think that is something really important to take from this song, though, is that concept. But going back to the chorus as well, I always kind of wonder, All right, whose choice or idea was it for those oohs that Geddy does? Because I find them entertaining, but it's not something done very often in Rush songs. It's like, I mean, it is, but not a whole lot of the oohs going on in most songs. And so I don't know, kind of giggle a little bit.
Yeah, I can't remember where to find the interview. I'm sure if you searched, you'd be able to find it. But there was an interview with Geddy Lee, and he brought up this song, how he had been listening, and he listened to this song, and then afterwards he was like, "What the f was that?"
Did he?
Yeah.
I mean, the oohs kind of come to that conclusion, I think, of that's a choice, but all right. I enjoy it. Like, I like singing along to them.
Yeah, I think both of these songs have that element of where you finish listening to it for the first time and you're like, what in the world just happened?
This is why nobody likes Rush.
These are definitely not songs to show people when you're saying, hey, this is why Rush is so awesome. Not
Yeah,
because
show
they
'em
aren't good
Neurotica.
songs, but it takes a little bit to get into them.
Well, and having context is really helpful in these, especially context even for the entire albums. It's easier to appreciate Presto and Roll the Bones when you have the whole picture of who Rush is and where they were and what they're coming from and where they're going. Because if you only had Presto and nothing else, I feel like you'd be like, I don't ever want to listen to this band again.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely two very transitional albums. I mean, even just in Geddy's hair, you have them going from the rat tail mullet of Hold Your Fire to the very 90s ponytail.
Yeah.
And then he finally, in Counterparts, just kind of let it go.
Oh, so I guess this is a good time to bring up that since it's October and we're talking about Roll the Bones, Adam and I in 2018 Halloween dressed up as Rush, but specifically Rush from the Roll the Bones tour. So Adam has a really cheap black long wig from Walmart in that low ponytail style, and I think he pulls it off. I was dressed up as Alex, and we had a small little baby at the time, and our little baby was tiny Neil with a bandana. We'll post this on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, those hairstyles.
It was definitely a costume that nobody had any idea what the heck we were.
Oh, yeah. If you want a costume where people stare at you and just think you're weird and have no idea, Rush from Roll the Bones tour.
Or Rush in
I
general.
know. It was funny. It was funnier because it was oddly specific.
Yeah. I mean, if you do Rush from anything but the 70s, nobody will know what you're doing.
No. We should have done kimonos. Okay, this is completely off topic. We need to pick a song now. Well, is there anything else that you would like to say about Neurotica, and why do you want to talk about the snaps?
Oh my gosh, that is yet again another thing that makes this song very much what is happening. Because, you finally get used to the verse and the chorus, and you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden, snap!
And this random bridge, yeah. Which the first time I heard it, I thought he said stop. And then I read the lyrics and I was like, you can't even tell he's saying snap. Why is he saying snap? And what is happening?
Yeah, there's just a lot going on with this song, but it is enjoyable. There's some very enjoyable musical moments.
Absolutely. All that to say, I love it all. I think it's so fun to listen to, but it is very confusing at first. And just to point out, in that bridge with the snaps, it is again tied to the gambling theme of Roll the Bones, talking about Russian roulette and all that. So that's kind of, it's still cool to see that no matter what, they're tying into their theme of the album as well.
Yeah, goofy or eccentric Rush is definitely an acquired taste.
Which I love it. I mean, like we've said in probably every single episode of this bracket, we love all of these songs that are in these brackets. And it is sometimes even harder to choose between the least popular ones.
I think the more quirky songs give you better insight into the band, better insight into their humor, and into the fact that they were musicians just trying to get albums out that reflected where they were musically. And not every single song is going to be a radio hit or going to be super popular. And so why not experiment? Why not be quirky?
Yeah, because if there's something that Rush always did is whatever they wanted and what they enjoyed. And so that's something to really appreciate about these songs is regardless of what everyone around them would tell them, they were like, well, we're still going to do what we want to do. And I think that is reflected in these two songs.
Yeah, and the thing to also remember is that even with them being quirky and even with them in some regards going off the deep end, musically, they're still way more complex and intricate than just about any other band in that same space.
Yeah, it's just their baseline, honestly. So where does that leave us with a decision? Because going in, I had a clear decision made already. But I definitely feel like I've changed my mind.
Yeah, for me, I went back and forth on this. At the outset, I was picking Anagram, and that was just it. And then I listened to both songs over and over again, and I really did begin to like Neurotica a lot more than I had before. But I'm just a sucker for wordplay.
Yeah.
It's like, that is a love language for me.
He's weird. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Well, because like I said, going in, I had a clear decision, and it was Neurotica because it does have that sentimental value as well of listening to it while I would go running all the time and those fond memories and really enjoying all the parts of it. But after learning more about Anagram again and really digging more deep into it, I think I also have to choose Anagram, even though I really thought I was going to choose Neurotica.
Yeah, for me, it's the wordplay. It's the right on the border of cheesy music that I think underscores the quirkiness of the wordplay going on, and just the fact that it's just so catchy.
I do enjoy the drums quite a bit in this song. I would be sad if I never got to hear the drums again.
Yeah, and I feel like you've got to have a super quirky song in the mix.
And not to mention, if we didn't choose Anagram, we would never get that moment at the very end of Geddy singing "The Saint Turns to Sin" really high, and it's extremely fun to sing along to.
It's just a satisfying song to me, just because of those bits of his singing, the catchy melody, and the goofy wordplay that's going on.
And I do actually agree with you that it isn't weak, but I do feel like it isn't the strongest vocal performance that Geddy had in Neurotica. And then I do enjoy his performance more in Anagram. Not that they're exactly the same, but I think that's something to put into account too.
Yeah, and I think that the guitar solo in Neurotica, like, it's fine. It's definitely Alex. But I don't think it adds a ton. Because I think it was too short to really add very much to the song.
Yeah, and just because we're choosing Anagram today will never stop me from still listening to Neurotica as much as I want. But for the purposes of this fun podcast and this activity, we are going to be choosing Anagram for Mongo today. That was a fun discussion. We'll definitely post that hilarious picture of us as dressed up as Rush and from the Roll the Bones tour. So next week, for week 7 of the least popular bracket, we actually have 2 songs from the same album. From Hold Your Fire, we have Lock and Key versus High Water, which I'm already kind of mad about. So we will see you. Well, we don't see you. I don't know what to say. Until next week.
Yes, until next week on the Rush discussion. I kind of want to give a subtitle to this next week's pairing of the Shame on You pairing, because anybody who doesn't like these songs, shame on you.
Oh, he's already throwing shade. All right, until next week.